Welcome to the TPL Show, a podcast dedicated to the study and discussion of leadership. Join us as we share relevant, simple, and lasting methods for improvement that can be used to lead from any level in any organization.
Hey everybody, welcome to the TPL Show. This is Dave Cahill. Today we're going to talk about the power of alignment. I'm here with co-host Luke Weber.
Hey guys.
And we're also here with a guest, Dan Mullenkamp, who has a lot of experience with the benefits of alignment in an organization. And Luke, maybe you could introduce Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited to have Dan on our show today. Dan has been an owner of several successful businesses over the past 30 years. He passionately believes that business success is a byproduct of great teams pursuing a noble purpose and wants to help other businesses do exactly that. But really, he's just an old guy who's learned a few things by making a lot of mistakes and loves to help others learn the lessons without making those mistakes. Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Very glad to have you here. So I guess we're going to do our kind of traditional thing, right? The what, why, how.
Why, how.
And we'll start with what is alignment. We'll dive right in. And then, of course, Luke and Dan, if you want to add anything, feel free to add or even just jump in right in the middle here. So what is alignment? We're taking most of our definition of alignment today from Miles Kierson as he describes it in his wonderful book, The Transformational Power of Executive Team Alignment. So let me begin by sharing that definition. Alignment is a relationship to decisions. It's an approach to decisions that leads you to own decisions as if they were yours. Alignment is the most powerful relationship you can have to a decision. And alignment is a choice. It's also a commitment to have a decision work. If you're aligned, then you both own the decision like it's yours, and you're committed to making the decision work. Also, alignment is not a one-time thing. It must be sustained over time. It's an ongoing commitment, an attitude, a state of mind. An aligned team needs to be sure each team member is committed, that they will own every decision once it's made. Alignment is agreed upon as a team principle, and then it's sustained over time by the team. Team alignment's only powerful when it's a function of a commitment that's been made in advance. And here's what that commitment is, that commitment that everyone on the team makes in advance. Whenever a decision is made, I will align with it. This is radically different than the way most teams operate today. The key to alignment is the commitment to make a decision work. Once a decision is reached, you go out and do what the decision requires with an attitude of making it work. For example, we've all seen a company strategy, which is a series of decisions. And we've seen that series of decisions be laid out, but there's not real alignment, and then the strategies fail to be implemented successfully. Lastly, alignment is an individual capability. So alignment's a function of individual choices and individual skills. An aligned team is one in which the individuals have agreed to own every decision and to be committed to making the decisions and each other successful. So alignment's a skill that separates amateurs from professionals. Professionals know the value of alignment and how to operate in an aligned way. Executive team alignment is the way we describe the attitude of an executive group that has chosen to work as an aligned team rather than a group of people with titles who just come together to report things to the CEO. They've decided individually and as a group to own every decision and to strive to make them all work. Each member of the group believes and acts as if the executive team is their team one and the departments they lead are team two. So that's our definition of what alignment is.
Yeah.
Those two key things, coming together when a decision is made and owning the decision and then doing what's required to make it work. And then with this kind of underlying formula, which is you agree in advance that that's the way you're going to react to all the decisions that are made.
Right. Doesn't that kind of go back to the theory of the decision line?
It certainly does. This idea of, so the theory of the, when we did the theory of the decision line, when we did the show on that, we said there were tools and concepts all around, and we'd be talking more about it. And the theory of the decision line says you argue like heck, and then you approach that line where the decision is made, you make the decision, and then you're crossed over into support like heck.
Right.
And so that is a way to animate this concept of alignment. It's okay to argue it through, discuss it, and so forth.
Sure.
But once that decision's made, then we come across the line, we're all going to own it.
Full support.
Like it's ours, and we're going to do what we need to make it work.
I think that's important.
Yeah,
That's a nice tie-in.
I think a lot of teams mistakenly view alignment as agreement, and it has nothing to do with agreement. You don't have to agree with the decision that was made. It's the concept that the team is going to work to make that decision work, even if the decision that was made is not the one they themselves individually would have made.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. So that's kind of another concept we've talked about in the past, which is just the math. A poor decision that's well supported is hugely more effective than a great decision that's not supported. Right? So when we support, we build success in, even if it's not something we might personally agree to.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you view alignment as this idea that we are going to support the decision, then what that allows is what you just said. It allows you to make good decisions because you don't have to pick the one that's most supported. You can make the best decision and know that the team's going to support it.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you agreed to operate as a team.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful.
I like that.
I want to unpack that. That's so now you have this array of options in front of you, and you pick the one that's the most effective, knowing everyone will support it.
Right.
Instead of picking the one that you believe most people will support. So you look at any federal program, and they're hugely unsuccessful, and that's the way they operate. They go after the program design that most people will support instead of the one that's going to be the most effective, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah. So anything else we should roll around about what alignment is?
No, I think it pretty much covers it. I like that. That's a very thorough definition.
Okay.
And I think that covers most of what we want it to be. So
All right.
let's move on to the why.
All right. Let's talk about the why. And you're going to kind of facilitate that discussion, right?
So in discussing the why we should have alignment in an organization, we have three different areas that we tend to focus on. So we have a rational or logical reason, we have emotional reasons, and then we have tangible reasons of why we should have alignment. And the tangibles are essentially the bottom line of why we should have alignment.
They're the
within
impact.
Organization. Yeah, the impact of alignment within the organization. So Dan, I want to start the discussion with you. In your experience, what are some of those logical or rational reasons of why we should have alignment?
Well, I like to use an analogy of a rowing team, okay? Because if you took a rowing team, let's say you have two teams, and one of them, there's 10 rowers, and another team, there's only 7, all right? But on the team with 10, they don't all have the exact same oars. They're not using the same equipment. And the person who directs the rowers is called a coxswain, and there's some of the people are listening to the coxswain's beat and their stroke counts and things along those lines, but they're not all. That boat is going to have a very difficult time going in a straight line down the river toward the objective. But in the other boat, there's 7 people. They could have inferior equipment and be inferior rowers. But if they just use all the same oars and they stroke by the lead of the coxswain and they're going toward their goal, they will vastly outperform the boat with the 10 rowers. simply because they're all working together. And that's the logic of how why alignment makes such a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave, what's some of your experience in organizations with alignment? I know that you've been, with Avanulo, right?
Yeah.
So you've been in and out of many different organizations. We preach, we teach those organizations to focus on alignment. So what have you seen in your experience?
Well, it's really wrapped into everything we do. So we walk in with this kind of catchphrase, alignment equals flow.
Right.
And we teach the theory of the decision line, and we teach this concept of a poor decision that's well supported is more effective than a great decision that's not supported, and so forth. And we start building this idea of alignment just as we heard it described. And the impact is extraordinary. So we see circumstances where teams have become dysfunctional. So the commercial team that's interacting with the customer is constantly kind of bad mouthing, so to speak, the production team, and vice versa, and they can't work together and they can't be in the same room together, and because of this level of dysfunction and misalignment. So one team's working on cost optimization, one team's working on delivery, and they're pulling apart, right?
Right.
So we see things like using the perfect order metric, where we combine the two so everyone's working together, because you can't simply have your piece be successful. And if your function in the organization is successful, it doesn't mean you're successful. It has to be the entire stream is successful, and so forth. To kind of heal those relationships and keep focusing on that idea of alignment, making that commitment in advance, teaching about the professionalism. So this is really kind of an attitudinal thing. And you work on it over time, and you have backsliding, and you work on it again, and it slowly gets better. And people see the results, and then they're willing to buy in over time as they see these results, and then become, fanatics about this idea of alignment. So, to me, we teach literally hundreds of tools and techniques, but this concept of alignment equals flow, and then teaching people how to be professionals and align. As Dan said, to worry less about do I agree and more about am I owning the decision and then doing everything I can to make the decision successful. It's really where it's at. It's the heart of the matter.
Yeah, right. I agree with that.
Well, at our organization, when Dave came in and taught, the first thing you introduced us to was the 1440 meeting.
Sure.
Right. And that simple concept of let's get together every morning and agree on this set of questions, and we're going to start our day this way. And it involved everybody in that business exchanging a little bit of information for 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah.
It was the beginning, but it made a dramatic effect right away. It was one of those things that after 2 weeks of using the meeting, nobody would even consider not starting our day that way.
Yeah.
And because that brought us together.
Right.
It started us on that path.
Yeah, you align around the meeting. You align around the questions. You align around the style of the meeting. Mm-hmm. It's all teaching alignment. And then, of course, you're getting more done in less time. You have more time to interact, and all those good things happen from the 1440. But that's where alignment starts for sure, right? And so we call that kind of phase in the Avanulo way syncopo, which means alignment, right? And you start to align in the case of that with a daily rhythm,
right?
It's in my experience when we've implemented the 1440 system in these organizations, and Dan, you described it perfectly. So as people start using that 1440 system and kicking their day off with that 7 or 8, 9 minute meeting, same questions every day, bringing a little bit of information, they, after 2 to 3 weeks, they don't see another way of doing that meeting. But not only that, but they want to take that form and style of meeting, that 1440 system, and take it elsewhere to their other meetings because of how effective it is.
Yeah.
So it's really, really powerful, not only just to kick off their day like that, but it changes the way they think about other situations.
That's really important to note. So when we were putting all this together, of course, we studied many things. One of the things we ran across was the 3-man rescue team of the Coast Guard. So you've seen it where the Coast Guard helicopter zips out there to sea and saves the guys from the sinking boat and all that. And they've got this 3-man team in the back, not the guys flying it, but the guys that do the actual rescue. There's a 3-man team, and it's very specialized, elite team. Sometimes they got to go in the water. They've got to rescue people in the icy, freezing, stormy, all this kind of stuff, right? Those teams, the procedure that they use, the approach, the role of each team member, the way they're aligned around the mission is so tight. You just know, I'm team member number 1, 2, 3. And then they have these teams all over the nation, but folks get sick, they need vacations, they rotate out to other duties. This process is so tight in the Coast Guard that you can put any 3 rescue guys together from anywhere in the world, and they're instantly a team. Right. And that's what happens with the 1440. Yeah. You can drop into any 1440 meeting anywhere in that company, and you instantly know what's going on.
It's all the same.
And it's the same. Yeah. And that is alignment.
That's huge.
Right?
Yeah. That's a really good concept.
Yeah.
All right, so that's some information and good discussion around the rational or the logical reason of alignment. So let's move on to the emotional side.
Yeah.
So Dan, in your experience, what have you seen on that emotional side?
So now this can take a little longer, but this is where the big payoff of alignment really comes in my opinion, because we can move resources around, and we talk about time management and things along those lines, but in reality, we all function off of, at least in my opinion, the management of our energy and our thoughts and things along that. We only have so much to give, right? So if alignment to you means agreeing on the decision, then a decision's made, but this person doesn't really like that decision, and you're not necessarily 100% in on this decision. And so all the steps that go forth afterwards, whether it happens in a group or me individually, if I'm the one who says, I don't agree and I haven't got this concept of alignment down, we end up exerting a tremendous amount of energy and thought and time, whether we want to admit it or not, in rethinking the decision. It's constantly rolling around in there. And that emotional torture or torment that we put ourselves through makes everyone's progress drastically slower. Yeah. It's a much bigger drain than the logical side of it, though you need both. Yeah. Okay? So when people stop that, when and it's two-sided, okay? When I decide, no matter if I agree with the decision or not, I'm heart and soul in on making it work. Yeah. We're going to succeed with this decision, even if I don't like it. And I know everyone else is heart and soul into making that happen. Right. Then all that emotional baggage and drain and thoughts and effort and energy can be focused on what needs to be done instead of on what are we actually going to do, and do I really think it's going to work? It all goes away, and it allows that energy to be focused like the sun going through a magnifying glass. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
That is just makes it work so much better. It does take longer to attain, okay, and sometimes really good people won't necessarily be able to stay on the team. That doesn't mean they're bad people or anything like that, but if they can't come to that place where you're going to agree to own a decision that you didn't personally necessarily care for, and there could be a million reasons for that, but if a person needs to leave because of that, they're better off not being on that team because they're not going to fit in.
Sure.
And you can, by that, because of that emotional drain, you can take 3 rowers off the boat and make it go faster.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So I want to come back to that idea of 3 rowers off the boat in just a minute and ask you some things about that. But this idea of, if people can't come to that place. So this is to me, this is a place of professionalism. It's about being a professional. So when you're a professional, you have this attitude and this skill, which is the organization has made this decision. A huge reason why they pay me as a leader is to use my relationship capital with others in the organization to move this decision forward. So I have to own this decision, right? Own it, and then work to make it successful. And this is a matter of being a professional. Amateurs say yes in the room and then roll their eyes when they're back with their people and all that kind of stuff, and whisper about how it's not going to work and we should have done a different thing. That's an amateur move. Right. And it's completely contrary to the very notion of why you were brought on board as a subordinate leader. You were brought on board as a subordinate leader to move these things forward, right? To own the decision and then make it successful. So the last 15 years or so, people have come up with a term for this: drama.
Oh yeah.
So what this does is this approach, this professional approach that you described, it eliminates drama in the workplace. And you were about to say something. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
That's okay. I was interrupting you actually, but the idea of professionalism, it goes both. Yes, that it's true. Exactly what you said as far as the individual goes. It's also, in my opinion, hugely unprofessional for an organization to expect this to happen if they haven't clearly defined who they are and that this is the expectation and made it clear to everybody. You know, to sit around in a boardroom or somewhere else and say, and in your mind, expect this outcome, but not provide tools and the idea and that you personally enforce this and make it clear to everybody that this is the understanding. Because I've met very few business leaders who would actually be able to say that alignment isn't agreement. It is It is the action of agreeing to the decision.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. The organization needs to be very professional about how this is implemented, and the individual has to be professional enough to grasp it.
Yeah. That's very true. You have to spell this out. Organizational leaders, what does alignment mean? What's it all about? Theory of the decision line, these kind of concepts and tools, constantly talking about it, saying it's what we value here, and also saying, but we're not expecting yes people or sycophants. Right. We want you on that argue like heck phase to bring up all the pros and cons and all that stuff. But once we jump across to we've decided, now we need you to own it and make it work.
That's where the best decisions are made. Right? Because if you don't have those arguments prior to those decisions being made, then you're just going to have a lot of those yes people be like, oh yeah, I'm cool with that. It's good. Yeah. And then as soon as that meeting's over, they walk out and be like, psh, that's dumb.
So it's up to the organizational leaders to put this into the culture, talk about it, bring up concepts and tools that will help make it alive and easy and facilitate it. And they got to talk about it a lot, not just once, but a lot, so that people get that this is part of the way.
I think that ties back into the purpose, vision, and values of the organization. We've talked about the PVV, getting that in place. And people have mission statements and things like that they follow, but they don't clearly define. Like you were saying, Dan, people need to understand that this is what is expected of you.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Not just, this is our high level vision, but these are the details and the expectations for you in your day to day work life.
Yeah. This is key.
Organization.
So whether you're leading a team of 4 or 5 people on a single process or a machine center or something or an office, or you're leading, 50,000 people, the point is this is up to you to put in place and talk about and animate and keep alive. So really, it comes to this idea of leaders versus managers that we talk about so much, the 2 authority streams, right? This is a key part of your leadership authority stream. And if you're spending 80% of your time worrying about budgets and spreadsheets, you ain't leading. Right. You need to spend the majority of your time worrying about these kinds of things in the culture and interactions with people. And that's what makes an organization zoom. Right?
Agreed. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
So before we get too far away, I want to come back to the 7 rowers versus 10 rowers, because I think you can talk tangibly. You're just not pulling that out of the sky when you talk about 7 rowers versus 10 rowers. You've had this experience of how alignment can help you row faster with fewer oars. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And my organization, as I said, the emotional part of it takes a while to get there. So we're moving down this area of becoming aligned, and wonderful people who I love, and they loved the organization, but we couldn't get to that alignment. All right. So, of course, eventually they decided to move somewhere else. Okay. And which was great for them. And I know they're all doing wonderfully at where they've gone to.
Yeah.
And we just didn't replace the majority of them. Okay. We just kept doing with less. And what happened was, not only were we able to do the same, we were actually able to do more. We can get back to more because the people who are left are truly aligned, and everybody won in that. It took a while to get there.
Sure.
And now we're going to drop to the bottom line part of it, because, or the tangible,
yep.
Because as soon as you can produce more with less, all right, well, every business person knows that the difference is going to drop that profit right down to the bottom line.
Sure.
And so our net operating profit in that organization over a 3-year period, where we gradually got to that level, it has gone up 342%.
342%
in 3 years, and we're having more fun.
Yeah.
And everybody, even the people who left, are having more fun too. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So are your people exhausted? Are they working harder than ever, and they're stressing out, and they got to call the employee assistance program?
No, we don't have people running on the hamster wheel. Is that what I always refer to. So life should never be like an adventure on a treadmill.
Yeah.
You can go as fast as you want. You're not really getting anywhere. That's not life. Okay. Not at all. Like I said, we're having more fun, and I mean it. Okay. Yeah. It is, people are more involved, and it's freeing up in every way, because as a whole we're aligned, but then we're broke into obviously multiple teams. All right. So this morning, before I came up for the show, I had meetings with my marketing team and then my farm team, and the ease at which we can get through, in 15 minutes, we can cover an immense amount of ground. And all of these people are excited, hey, this needs to be done. People just volunteer like that. It is an incredible experience, and you just hear in their voice, and you see in their eyes, they're alive.
Yeah.
It is, I am extremely passionate about improving people's lives. Yes, I want it to affect the bottom line, but in the end, it's in watching them be alive. I have people who refer to work as their safe place, because with kids and everything, life can be chaos sometimes.
Yeah, sure it can.
And they know that there's this one place where they do a lot of work. They're tremendous people, but it's home. It's this settling. They know they're doing it for a great cause, and they love what they're doing.
Yeah. Alignment equals flow.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
I think that that's perfect. That conversation was a perfect segue into the tangible reasons of why to have alignment, or as Dan said, the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right. So in my mind, that initially comes, for most organizations, it comes to value. Right.
Yeah.
So money on the bottom line. But Dan, you just said it's not always about the money. It's about changing people's lives or making them feel better about what they do on a daily basis. And you just described a perfect situation to where not only did you increase, your bottom line 342%, but you're changing the way people feel about work. And a society like today, where work-life balance is so focused on. Like, I would say that today, most people worry about work-life balance probably more than anything else. They make decisions on where they go to work or what job they're going to apply to based on what work-life balance am I going to have? Am I going to, spend 50, 60 hours a week in the office, or am I going to have time to go pick up my kids after school type thing, right? That conversation is more important now than it has ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important today. And it drives a lot of the competition for an ever shrinking pool of qualified candidates. So I agree with you. This idea of the bottom line impact, not necessarily just being money. So we look at the purpose of our organization. So Dan, your organization has this, and of course, the purpose, the noble purpose of any organization is making the lives of your customers better in some way. That's the kind of generic noble purpose for any organization. So for you, it's you and your company at Preferred Insurance, it's reducing the real risk that people have. And there's kind of a value prop there. It's reducing that risk in a real way for the most affordable means that you can do that. So you're now 340, what was it, 342? 42% increased. This means you're serving more people. They either had that need and it was never fulfilled, or they had that need being fulfilled, but they weren't satisfied with the ultimate value. So you've made their lives less risky for a better value proposition. Otherwise, you wouldn't grow, right?
Right.
So you're fulfilling this noble purpose, which is very important.
Yeah, and it's not just that. We say our purpose is we protect and improve people's lives so they can concentrate on what really matters in life, okay? And it goes way beyond the insurance part of it. We're so involved in community, and we share, all right? So we share what we've learned, and we get involved in practically every fundraiser, that type of thing that goes on. But it's more, well, I'm going to tell a sappy story here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay. So this is when I knew we were on the right track when it came to purpose, because it was some years ago, and this elderly lady who, she had a rough life, and you could see it when she walked in the door, okay? And she'd been a client for a couple of years, and she comes in my office, and she's sitting there, and she has a Preferred Insurance on her envelope in her hand, but she's not really talking to me about anything to do with insurance. And I ashamedly was kind of busy, so I said, hey, Maggie, do you is there something you need to talk to me about? And she finally says, oh, not really. Everything's fine. So I said, well, I've got to go to a meeting, and I got up, to escort her to the door. And Maggie grabs me and hugs me and starts crying. And I said, Maggie, what's up? And she goes, I was really just having a terrible day. And I knew all I had to do was walk into Preferred Insurance and my day would be better. And what that told me in that moment was that we were creating a place with an attitude that was so abundantly positive and good that it wasn't just about, who was going to get her insurance for the least amount of money or pay her claims right. And all those things are important, okay? She came in because being in the office was going to make her day better.
Right.
So giving back is much more than just the financial part of it.
Sure.
It all comes together, and you can't do that. We're talking about alignment. If your place is full of drama and friction, nobody's coming in your door because they want to make their day better. Right. It's not going to happen.
Definitely not.
So,
no, that's great.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, so that's some really good discussion around the why alignment is very important inside of an organization. Let's talk about the how, right? So we have a few different things that we can discuss on the how side. Dave, why don't you kind of walk us through some of those?
Sure. we'll cover the how briefly. We have a lot of tools and education around how to do this that you can access through the show notes or by reaching out to us. And we'll touch on them briefly here, just so at least you'll know what they are, right? So the first thing we have to do is to educate everyone that we're going to have work in alignment. So the people that we want to align, right? We want to have this mindset or this attitude. We need to educate them about the power of alignment and what alignment is. Right. So what's your definition of alignment? Is it the same as the one we just shared, or is it something more unique to you? But what is alignment, and what's its benefit and the power, et cetera. So once you've done that, then you need to implement some supportive tools. So one thing for sure you need to have is a formal, effective decision-making process, right? We have those that you could get from us. There are many others available, but you have to have a process, whether it's internally developed or you're relying on someone to provide a process for you. You have to have a process that's clear, people can see it, and they can follow it. We also highly recommend implementing the theory of the decision line. Yeah. That's a previous episode you can go listen to and learn all about the theory of the decision line. That makes a great kind of overarching concept for this idea of the power of alignment. And then we have tools that you can use like Go to One. We have a process where people have different measurements or different approaches, or they see different priorities, and this idea of Go to One creates alignment around that singular concept where there's differences of opinion or approach. And then we also have an alignment protocol, which is a process for building this idea of alignment, the animation, the steps, the process for how you align around a decision, make the decision and align and so forth. So the first thing, educate everyone about the power of alignment and what it is. The second, implement supportive tools that help you bring it to life. Then the third is just practice alignment and review it. So practice being aligned and then come together after decisions and after implementations and openly, candidly discuss how it went. Were we aligned? Were there periods where we were not aligned? Did people maintain their professional rigor? Did they violate it? In other words, practice Hansai, self-reflection, this lean leadership technique where you openly and candidly talk about what went well and what could have gone better, and then make public commitments about how you'll improve your behavior and the process for the future. And then the fifth step, repeat. So it's just educate, implement supportive tools, practice and reflect, repeat. And just keep doing that. Keep talking about it. Keep talking about the need for it, and keep animating it and practicing it. That's the how-to. It's as simple as that.
That's good. I like it.
I'm going to step in here with a shameless plug for another one of our businesses.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, please do.
Absolutely. Arena Success Group. Because it really comes down to the how part of this is what we're all about. And if you go back to the earlier in the show, we talked about the rowboat. It's a very simple thing, okay? So that's kind of the theory we took. We built some tools that were simple enough that almost anybody could come in and use them when they understood them, okay? And if the company has them set up correctly. So it's there's some web-based tools, and there's also this entire process where the company determines its PVV, and very Avanulu-ish
purpose,
there,
vision,
correct?
value,
right? And then because everyone in the organization starts using the same tools and talking the same way and making decisions that fit the PVV, and it's all built into this tool set between the process and the learning and those types of things, it brings somebody through that. And it is designed. We brought it to life to bring large business concepts, make them accessible to smaller businesses. So yes, it's simplified, but it brings people through that process, and the simple act of going through the process and everybody using the same tools in the same ways largely delivers a great degree of alignment.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
So this process, Arena Success Group, and how it animates the PVV brings about alignment. is remarkable. So we're very proud of what you've done. I mean, we were so impressed with it that Avanulo, became involved, and we're involved in the ASG now. We're partners, yeah. And it's really a great approach. I've never seen anything like it in the application in the app world that takes this idea of purpose, vision, and values, brings them through to decision making on the various initiatives and so forth that you're working, and aligns those things against your purpose, vision, and values in a very simple way that everyone can access. It's really fantastic. It is software, right? Yeah. That animates this idea of the power of alignment. Yeah, it's really great. So I hope everyone will check it out. It's at arenasg.com. That's where you find it, right?
Right. Correct.
Okay. All right, good.
Very good.
So anything else anyone want to mention before we wrap up?
No, I think that's about it. I just want to say thanks again for Dan being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. We really appreciate you coming and sharing with us today.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. That's our show on the power of alignment. If you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to leave a review or send us some feedback at info@tplshow.org. And be sure to like, subscribe, share on all the platforms, all the things. Do all the things, right, Dave?
That's exactly right. Do all the things.
All right. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the TPL Show. We hope you'll apply what you learned today and tell us how it went. If you want to share, want more information, or have questions, please contact us at info@tplshow.org. Have a great day.